You're listening to the Shipyard Cat Podcast, the unofficial SAFC podcast for fans everywhere. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the pod. In the hot seat tonight is myself, Kev, and I'm joined by Adam and Robin, where we're going to give you our thoughts on the absolutely outstanding performance against Brentford, where the officials did everything right, we did nothing wrong, and it just didn't go our way. Lads, how are we?
Yeah, look, I think we're all right. It's a bit of a funny one, isn't it?
If we don't laugh, we cry, lads. Like, come on. Let's just keep it live.
Yeah.
Just appalling. Do you know what I said to someone at work today? I just said, now it's calmed down. That was just one of them good old-fashioned away day slappings. You went to a ground, you got outplayed, things didn't go your way, and you walked away with your tail between your legs to think, right, let's not do that again. And it hurt. Yeah. Were there parts of the game that should have changed and could have changed things? Absolutely. And that's what we're here to talk about. I mean, obviously, we know their striker is on form. And I think we even said in the preview, you've got to keep him quiet. You leave him too much space, he will punish you. You know, he got a hat-trick the other night, so he will have been going to our game full of confidence, newly promoted side, home territory. And in my opinion, lads, we played it into his hands, or his feet, technically. I mean, your take on it, lads?
I mean, to be fair to you, Kev, you did say, not this week, but previewing the Tottenham one, that we were probably due a bit of a tonking away from home. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, first goal, you know, Trey's lazy, maybe. You know, he played him offside. He played him onside. You know, I think obviously Ballard and Alderete had stepped up, and Thiago, with them two in the middle, was actually offside when the ball was played. But because Hume was that little bit further back, obviously it's onside. Look, he took the goal really well. Could Russ have done better? I would have liked to have seen him gone with his hands when he dropped the shoulder. He seemed to think about diving and then stopped himself. I would have liked to have seen him spread, you know, and actually made an effort. I think, you know, he sort of like let him go by him and then dived afterwards. I don't really like that as a goalkeeper. I like a goalkeeper to be really positive and confident. And I mean, look, I'm not going to criticise Russ because he's been amazing all season. But just from my personal point of view, I would have liked to have seen him actually gone and tried to get the ball away from his feet. I mean, if he clips his feet, it's a penalty. Yeah, yellow card. You know, which again I don't agree with, because I think if a keeper goes with his hands to make a genuine attempt at the ball, I think the penalty's enough. But yeah, second goal, absolute calamity. Absolute calamity. It's an interesting one for me because I thought there was an offside in the build-up, but obviously all the replays that I've seen, Sky failed to see it going back that far. You know, look, it's one of those, it came straight after Enzo did his Panenka. I mean, look, I've got no problem with Enzo doing a Panenka if we're winning the game.
Yeah.
Don't do a Panenka when you're losing, because that changed the game. We came out in the second half and we were all over them, really. You know, we were dominating possession. I mean, it surprised me. We actually had 52% possession at half time as it was. But we were dominating the game. We were creating the better chances. Quite rightly, we got the penalty. I mean, I must say, I know I'm going on a bit, and I might let Adam talk in a minute or two, I don't know. But Robbie was absolutely fantastic. His strength, his hold-up play, and it was a well-deserved penalty. You know, he worked it really well. But, you know, for the life of me, just smash through it. Either put it in the corner or smash through the ball. If you're behind and that's to equalise, and he does that, I mean, let's just pretend that he didn't do the Panenka and that ball goes in the back of the net. We've got all the momentum. We had the momentum anyway. We've got the momentum. We go on to win that. A few minutes later, what happens? You know, the defending was abysmal.
Yeah.
You know, I'll let Adam take over because otherwise it's going to be, 30 minutes of me talking.
No, for me, I'm in agreement with you there. As a former defender myself, the defence last night just didn't seem that they had a cohesion about them. And it sounds horrible to say that, but Aldrete wasn't at his best. Mukiele didn't look at his best. He looked like he wanted to push forward. And at some stages, to me, I was getting flashbacks to Patrick Van Arnold. He can run up the pitch, but he couldn't track back. And that was a worry for me, just seeing how lackluster the defence was to track. And then, as you said there, second half, it was still 1-0. We just came out the blocks all guns blazing. When the Robbie's strength and hold up to win that penalty alone, never mind winning it, was just the fact being every time the ball was put to him, he was holding himself up. He was making sure that he wouldn't go down. When he did go down, clear pen, and we all said to each other, you've just touched on it there, Robin, we all said in the chat after that attempt by Enzo, was like, what on earth has just happened? If you watch Keller, either side of him, that ball goes left or to the right, he's not saving that. He was rooted to the spot and it was catching practice for him. And I don't want to dig Enzo out because you guys know how much I love Enzo and I think he's a career quality player. I think on reflection for him now, we've seen his Instagram post. We've put himself in black and white saying, hard one to take, but we move on. Yeah. Come the weekend when we'll play Everton, I know we're going to touch on it in a minute, but when we'll play them, if he is to play, everybody just needs to get back behind him and go, right, come on, it's a blip, it happens, move on, show us what you actually came here to do and sign for. That's just my overall on that. And then the second goal, I'm in agreement with you, Robin. It was a bit dubious. I felt like there might have been something in the mix there, but as you said, Sky being Sky just doesn't want to show you the whole situation. And then their third goal was just effectively for them the icing on the cake, wasn't it? Just to punish us when we were down and forgotten about really in that game.
I mean, I think the missed pen, it goes one of two ways that game. He scores that, we go on and we either do something with it or we lose that 3-1 because Brentford were a very good side. Look, Keith Andrews has done wonders from being a set piece coach to managing Brentford. He's now got them fifth. I mean, that's no mean feat. How far back do VAR go? In the build up to a goal before they say that was part of it. I don't know, but for me, you just write this one off. Like I said on previous pods, we had one of those coming. Was that worse than our performance at Burnley? It's hard to say because for me, Brentford are a better side than Burnley. We just hadn't gelled when we played Burnley, in my opinion. I think what Brentford was a combination of the lads being absolutely knackered and far too many long trips for away days because of the way the scheduling's been. You got to think December was a rough month. Obviously, we then lost a load of the players to AFCON. And then just the up, down, up, down, up, down of it all. I know, the conversation is that the lads did stay in the south, but you're not at home. There will have been certain elements that the lads do miss because they didn't travel home. But yeah, I mean, Robin, your take on some of that?
I mean, I think that's a really good point, Kev. The fact that we stayed down in London or the south, probably just set aside using another club's training facilities and stuff. But the lads had a few days in a hotel away from home, and like I said in our chat thing, maybe that's why Wilson was missing. Maybe he's obviously they said he was picked up a slight knock or whatever, but maybe he's just had his daughter. He's at home helping now. His wife might not want him to be away from home and that for 3-4 days. It could be one of those things. You've got to think. I mean, that's the sixth, seventh game without the AFCON lads. I mean, obviously, with the exception of Talby and Diarra, the others are back. Yeah, Masuako hasn't really featured much, and I don't expect him to now. Because Ronaldo's back. We got Sirkin back fit as well. Sadiqi's coming back into it, which was a big miss. Just the ground he covers. So those lads. I mean, it's like my ender against Tottenham. He looked disappointed to come off, but they needed to rest him. Robbie's been playing 90 minutes. All the other lads have been playing, and yeah, they're probably knackered. It has impacted us. And to be fair, to get away with one defeat during the AFCON is pretty good going, I'm going to say. I mean, Brentford, yeah, they're up to 5th in the table. And yet we were talking previously about Tottenham's going to be a tough game, but I think what you've got to look at this season as well is that the so-called big clubs, as they like to be known, aren't necessarily the big clubs anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You've got these other clubs. You've got Brentford, you've got Brighton, obviously Bournemouth, yeah, they dropped a little bit, but last few years they've been up there. You've got these teams which are excelling and upsetting the apple cart, basically. We've done it. We're a newly promoted team. We've got 30 points. By FA Cup weekend, we've got 30 points. And that's what we've got to realise. I think a lot of the social media stuff, I think, is unfair. I think we've got to realise where we came from and where we are and what was expected at the start of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, just on that, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, a lot of that didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
When the team had a bad performance, it was an apology type statement after the match by the manager, and it was in the next morning's papers. That was that. Nowadays, there's 25 different pundits and plaudits, 3 different TV shows, 42 YouTube channels. The list goes on. However many podcasts. So yeah, it's massively different, isn't it? That's what it is for me. I think, yeah, we write this one off. It's not 3 points lost. It is just a loss. What have we lost now, lads? 5 games this season?
Yeah.
I mean, newly promoted side. Yeah, I know we spent a lot of money and we brought a lot of players in. We should be doing well. But like you just said there, Robin, newly promoted side, and people have very quickly forgotten that, which is a good thing. But we do need to just, like you say, dust this one off. The lads, depending on what we do this weekend, squad-wise, have got a good break now before Palace. And then it's back at home. And hopefully we can keep the momentum of home to get to that 40 points pretty quickly. Because, a few years ago, 27 points, 30 points kept you safe.
Well, Wolves last season was 28 points.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? There you go. So we've already beaten that. But like you say, you just want to have that comfort of looking down the table going, we're not getting into that. What did I say the other week to you guys? I want nothing more than to just get through this season having never been in that bottom 3. And we're getting there. It's going to take a lot for that to happen. So let's not go there. But I don't really think there's much more to say about Brentford. I mean, Adam, have you got anything to chip in with before we move on to Everton?
No, I was just going to touch on what you've just said there in regards to like progression and stuff, how much we've came on. The one thing I'm going to say is the fact that if you look at, yes, we've got 30 points. We're still sitting 10th in the table. And if I'm right in thinking, somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure it's like 3 or 4 points outside of the European places still. That's
not
mad.
even that.
But you know what I mean, though? That's mad. To think where
I
we
mean,
were 8 years ago, suffering in League One, to now
no.
have been that close away.
Unfortunately, Kev, we haven't gone one without me correcting him. Obviously, 8 years ago, we were, got relegated to the Championship, and then the following season we went down to League One.
You know what I mean, though? Like, we were in
Yeah.
distress. It was more the fact that we were in
No,
dire
no.
straits.
Yeah, look, I'm only messing
Yeah, so
around there, but yeah, look, it's
incredible to see where we are.
and you say we're only a few points off European places. I mean, Brentford are fifth. They're 3 points above us. If we had won yesterday, we were fifth and sitting in possibly a Champions League place. But look, we're not ready for Champions League football.
Of course we are.
No. Look, I mean, it goes back to realistically. To me, when we went down to League One, and obviously the first, year when we went to the playoff final against Charlton and we lost, and I said at the time I don't think we were ready to get promoted again because of the whole situation with the club. And you look at Charlton, they went up and come straight back down. They weren't ready either. Most teams that go up via the playoffs aren't ready. We're the exception this year, and it's purely because of the business that's been done since Kirill's come in. Obviously we got to look back at. I know a lot of people don't like it, but we got to look back at Donald and Methven. And the fact that they saved the club after Ellis Short decided to pull the plug. They made some hard decisions, and I've said it before. With redundancies and stuff, closing down club shops, etc. Getting rid of the lights on the pitch because we couldn't afford them, and the pitch, as we know, wasn't great for a few years, but it was necessary. And they put the club in the window, and it became an attractive option. And then Kirill came in. Obviously, Wansatori's been involved, since it seems like the beginning of time now. But he's obviously invested as well. And the way that the club's been turned around to be in this position now, we've really got to remember that when you look at teams that are struggling, and look, I don't think we need 40 points. I think we're safe. I don't see the bottom three teams getting to 30 points this season at all. When you look at, obviously, Wolves, yeah, they put a little 1-1 and stuff like that. And, then Burnley, and to me, West Ham. Forest is still not clear. But you've got to worry for them sort of teams because they could easily, especially West Ham, do what we did. Because West Ham, obviously being a London club, generally pay a lot of wages. They're playing to disgruntled fans that aren't turning up, so the revenue's gone down. You think if they go to the Championship, they're going to be able to afford to keep any of them players?
No.
So they're going to. I mean, not that I'd want to buy any, except maybe Jared Bowen, but they're going to be in a situation where they have to sell everyone just to try and balance the books, and they might not do it. And also, they rent that stadium. We were in a different position that we owned it, and we had assets, which made us more attractive. They're going to be hemorrhaging money. But look, that's by the by with the league, isn't it? But let's move on to the FA Cup, Kev?
Exactly that, mate. I mean, look, you've got two ways of looking at the FA Cup, in my opinion. You either use it as a game to try and get the confidence back in the lads, bearing in mind we haven't won a game in 5. We've drawn some, so it's not losing. But yeah, do you use this as a chance to get the lads back up on their feet, pick their heads up, chins up, whatever you want to say, and then prep for the league? Or do you go the traditional cup route that we've done for the many, many years, which is put in a weakened side to give players on the outskirts a chance? The likes of your Patterson, Blondie, Dan Neil, Luke O'Nine, to give them minutes and give them a chance? Or do you do a bit like you said, Adam? Do you do for like a blended squad, a little bit of each, a little bit of both? And, do you put Chitterov up front to give Robbie a rest and maybe Mayenda a break? Is this a game where you bring Wilson back into the mix to see how he is feeling? Obviously, there's talks that it's an injury as well as other things with him. It's a tough one. For me, I would like to see us go and get a result because it's against the Premier League opposition. We've not got an easy run in the first round of the FA Cup for us. I know it's like the third round, isn't it? But you know what I mean? We've not been drawn against a lower league side at home. We've been given a Premier League side away. And obviously, with what happened to them the other night in the Premier League, they're going to probably want to look to bounce back after finishing the game with 10 men and no, 9 men in the end, wasn't it? Because they had 2 red cards. I mean, yeah, it's a difficult one for me. I would like us to go with a semi-strengthened squad, but I do think this is an opportunity to rest certain players that have earned it. I think put Enzo into this squad and give him a chance to prove himself that everything's okay, that the game hasn't got to his head. But I would possibly give the likes of Xhaka a rest. And it sounds mad to think of resting Xhaka, but I think he's probably feeling it a little bit. He doesn't like losing. We all know that. But yeah, for me, this is an opportunity to say to maybe Dan Neil, look, not all's lost. You steer the ship today and give Xhaka the rest, even if Xhaka's on the bench as a there if we really need him for his his experience. One of the things Xhaka said in his reason for joining this club was he wanted to be there through the thick and thin and when we struggle. What a better way for him to sort of see that after the Brentford game. I mean, lads, I'll pass this to you two. Fight amongst yourselves who wants to go first. I suspect it's probably going to be Robin, but over to you, lads.
Now I'm going to jump in before he gets a chance.
I was going to say I'm going to actually let Adam come in there because I've got quite a bit to say on this. Might surprise a few people, but hey.
For me, we all know that I like when it comes to the FA Cup and the League Cup and stuff like that. I like seeing adaptations. I like to see a little bit of change to give those, as you've rightly said, Kev, those that have not really had a chance to actually get a chance to play and go to the boss and go, this is why I'm here at the club. This is why I deserve the starts and stuff like that. So I do agree. I think for me personally, I wouldn't mind seeing like a Chuterov up top. I think it'd be nice to see him just have a full game to be up there and say, right, prove what you can do. Because we've seen it in the unders. He's brilliant in the under. He can do really well. Likewise, if Sadiqi's had his rest days, I don't know if he's back at the club yet. But if he's somewhat rested or something like that, was reports that he wants to just get straight back on the pitch. Obviously, I know it's not his decision, but Regis may go, right, get your run out back and get a few minutes under your belt under Everton, get ready back for league football instead of international. And then for me personally in goal, it sounds horrible, but I don't want to see Pato in goal. If we're going to see anybody else other than Roos in goal, I want to see Simon Moore in goal. Because to me, Moore for me is more of a number 2 than Pato and Blondie, in my estimations anyway. I know probably Robin's going to absolutely tear me to bits for that. But then it's like for defence, do you mix it up? Do you put one of the Jones lads in? It's one of these things, isn't it? It's a headache to make, but do you roll the dice and take the risk of going out and beating Everton and then seeing if you get it, if they make it through, say a lower team in round 4 and make a cup run? Possibly. Or do you go, if we get beat, we get beat, move on. The league form is more important than a cup run. It's going to be one of those questions, isn't it, that you have to ask yourself really when it comes to it. Go on then, Robin, since you've got another 45 minutes of a speech prepared.
Go on, Robin, have him.
Where do I start?
There we go.
At the beginning.
Moore or Blondie is more of a number 2, and yet Patterson's been on the bench for every single game. Obviously, Adam, I don't know if you're tired or had a drink or what, mate, but come on. Patterson is the number 2. However, I sort of agree because I don't see him playing because the rumour is he's possibly going out on loan.
Yep.
And they won't want to cut time. Obviously, I'm presuming that wherever he's going to go is still in the FA Cup at the moment, so they're not going to risk that. Dan Neil, yeah, I think he's probably or possibly a good shout to come in. However, he's in a situation now where he's in the final 6 months. It doesn't look like he's going to sign his contract. I don't know what offers he's got, but again, are they going to try and shift him on before the transfer window closes to get some money for him, which again means they don't want to cut time. And then you've got to look at all the lads that are coming back from the AFCON. Are they going to give them more rest? And you've got to think, right, that Traore didn't play a great deal. Masuaku didn't play a great deal. Siddiqui did, yes. Ronaldo did, yeah, but will he play? Possibly. Will he be on the bench? I expect he will, but we've got Cirque in there anyway. You've got to look at bringing those lads back in because the squad has been a bit threadbare. And talking about obviously, one of the Joneses, I mean, it's likely to be Harrison, if any of them, which obviously, if everyone could see Kev rolling his eyes inside of his head now, we know how much of a fan of Harrison Jones he is. But look, he played left back in the pre-season and stuff like that. However, Sirkin's back, Ronaldo's back. Do we need him on the bench? To me, no. Tutor off, would he get a run out? He may make the bench, depending if they're going to rest people. But I personally don't see it being that many changes, with the exception of possibly the AFCON lads coming back in. I don't think it's one of those that we need to, because of our league position and the points that we've got. I don't think we need to say we need to prioritise the league and forget about the FA Cup.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we need to do is go in this and go, look, if we can get past this, we've possibly got the next 2 rounds against lower league opposition where we should favour it, and then we're in the, quarterfinals, and we're 2 matches away from Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what they've got to look at. We've got to be competing on all fronts that we can. And I think the FA Cup is a really good opportunity for us with the way the team's playing and the squad we've got. And that's without any incomings. We've heard a bit about outgoings. Obviously, Pembele going back to Le Havre. Unfortunately, it's just a loan with no option to buy, which I find a bit of a shame because obviously he's got no future whatsoever with us. We hear that Jamie Tetley might be on his way out tonight as well. Down to MK Dons. Obviously, when we bought him, and I said before, I thought he was a really good player at the League One standard. I thought he'd have been a really good player Championship standard, but his progression never hit the heights of what it should do. So obviously, he's one of those that have fallen by the wayside. I mean, a bit like, say, Elliot Embleton, etc. Where they are really good players, but they're just not at that elite level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we've got to be now. We've got to be at the elite level.
Yeah.
The lads that have stepped up, Ballard, Hume, Mayenda. I mean, just touching back on Brentford quickly, Rig, how many times was he bullied off the ball? Look, the lad's super talented and he's a great footballer. He's got good touch, good vision. But in the summer, he needs to bulk up a bit. He needs to come back like Job did, after the first season, where he was getting knocked off the ball and was a bit lightweight. And over the summer, he all of a sudden turned from a boy to a man and bulked up. That's what Rig needs to do. Rig needs to be a lot stronger. He's shot up in height, but he's not filled out yet. If he can fill out over the summer and next season, he'll be a much better footballer. But at the moment, I do feel he's playing out of position as well, to be fair. But when you look at Robbie and the strength he's got, he doesn't get knocked off the ball.
Mm.
You know, Riggs a bit of a soft touch at the minute, and it doesn't matter how technically brilliant you are. You know, you need that physicality. I mean, you know, you look at one of the best players ever in Lionel Messi. You know, yeah, he's a small bloke, but my God, is he tough? You know, no one knocks him off the ball. You know, he's so robust and his strength is unbelievable. And that's what we need. So there are players that have gone through the journey from League One into the Championship that are going to fall away. But unfortunately, football's a business, it's not romance.
100%. Well worded, mate. I mean, look, yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Like you say, I think, yeah, good opportunity for likes of Riggs to play. I've completely, to be fair, forgot about him. I thought he didn't offer much against Brentford. I felt he was just a little bit lost out there. But like you say, with some of the lads coming back from AFCON, hopefully we can shuffle the pack, so to speak, and put people back in their right positions as well. Because I know Rig can play on the wing, but for me, he's a better player in the middle. But anyway, we know to make tactical decisions. Let's move on to some predictions then, lads. For me, I'm happy with where we are in the league. I don't care about the cup. For me, I think if we get something out of this weekend, great. We move to the next round. But for this season, I think focusing on just the league and keeping everyone fit and healthy, avoiding silly injuries, is the priority. You can imagine you play Mukiele against Everton in the cup. You lose against Everton in the cup, you go out, but also Mukiele gets injured and he's out until April. Right. For me, that's why we should not bother with a full squad this weekend. But everyone's got their opinions. Adam, do you want to go first with the prediction?
I'm just going to go for a basic 1-0 win, really. I think it's going to be, if it is the fact when we do say half and half, or even just say a youth setup, and Everton do likewise, I think it's going to be just one of them scrappy affairs, really, isn't it? But from both teams, and both teams are probably wanting to focus on the league and make sure they stay in it. So, yeah, put me down as 1-0 tonight.
No worries, mate. And Robin?
Um, Look, I'd love to absolutely batter them because obviously I'll be their first visit to the Hill Dickinson. I thought it was going to be the last game of the season, but we've managed to get them in the FA Cup as well. I'm not looking forward to the prices because I've heard it's stupidly expensive. Obviously, I'm travelling up tomorrow and having a night in Liverpool, so I might have a couple of bevies, as they like to say over there. But I'd love Adam to be right and we get a win and progress in the cup. I think we should. However, it's Everton away. It's David Moyes. So I'm going to put us down as a travesty, probably through a poor refereeing decision, 1-0 loss.
Fair enough. But then, like you say, we move on to the rest of the league, don't we? Because that's the bigger fish out of it all. I haven't really got much else to say, lads. I think it's been a fairly sort of constructive pod in terms of obviously kind of rushing over the Brentford thing. Yeah, it is what it is. We move on. Like you say, what is it? Technically nearly 2 weeks before the next league game. That for me is far more of a bonus than the cup. But hopefully, like you say, we get something out of this weekend, even if it's just a good performance. For our listeners, you can't see this, but Robin's currently holding his cat against the camera. But no, look, to our listeners, thank you very much for listening in. To anyone that leaves us feedback, look, we do really appreciate it. And, some of the things we do say on this are a little bit in jest. And yeah, we're just here to have a bit of a laugh and kind of chew the fat. I've got plenty of it. To you lads, thank you for joining me, Adam.
Cheers, buddy. It means a lot. And it's nice to see you in the hot seat. We'll mix it up probably this next time and probably throw Robin in the mix.
I was going to say Robin can give us his thoughts, can't he? Because obviously he'll be at the Hill Dickinson. I don't know what state we'll be in, but yeah, no repeat of Palace, please, mate. And thank you for joining us again.
No, I mean, to be fair, I mean, I was going to say that was the last away game, but it wasn't. That was the last away game before. Obviously, I ended up in hospital. I did go to Brighton away, etc. as well. But yeah, it's I'm looking forward to it. You know, you can't beat a night in Liverpool at the end of the day as well. So, I mean, it's all good fun.
Exactly. And look, to our listeners, thanks again. We'll see you all on the next one.